This is the open workshop for the Glenorchy City Council, 11th of March 2025, and is the first open workshop for the year. Following a successful trial in 2024, Council have endorsed the continuation of open workshop program, which I think is excellent. We will aim to hold an open workshop each month on topics that are of interest to our community. Throughout the year, we'll be asking community what council-related topics you would like to hear about. Today, we have Eamon Jaffrey from the MRC, Migrant Resource Centre, to talk to us about strengthening multiculturalism, combating racism and empowering communities. Eamon is a leader in the multicultural sector, very well known, combining her lived experience of migration and with a deep commitment to creating better opportunities for new migrants in Tasmania. She currently works as the Training and Engagement Officer at Migrant Resource Centre, Tasmania. Following Eamon's presentation, our council officers, Christine Lane and Ellie Rigney, will give us an overview of an anti-racism campaign that Glenorchy City Council is participating in. Now, first of all, we'd like to welcome Eamon. Thank you. And Eamon will be introduced today by Helen Merrick, the Executive Manager of Strategy and Development from the Migrant Resource Centre, or MRC. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mayor. So I'm here as...
Sorry, we just have a slight technical issue. There we go.
So I'm here just to give a quick overview of the Migrant Resource Centre Tasmania, for anyone who's not familiar with our organisation, and to introduce my incredible team member, Eamon Jaffrey, who's been working with us for 2 years now. And we are so thrilled and privileged to have someone with Eamon's capacity and passion in this area to be the lead in our training program at Migrant Resource Centre Tasmania. So we are literally just across the road from the council, and at MRC Tas we basically provide a lot of services for people from refugee backgrounds and migrant backgrounds. We run the humanitarian settlement program for the whole of Tasmania. We also run the settlement engagement and transition program for the whole of Tasmania. We have the youth program. We also run the Phoenix Centre, which is a specialist counselling and mental health service for people from a background of torture and trauma. We also run aged care services. And then in our section, we have our training programs, which we run for government, councils, community groups, and also employers and organisations. And we also do a lot of our own research and evaluation programs and fundraising. So happy to answer any questions about MRC Tas at the end, but for now, I'm handing over to Eamon to talk to you about strengthening multiculturalism in our communities.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today. And I would like to pay my respects to elders past and present, and would like to acknowledge any First Nation persons in the room or online. I'm grateful for the elders who have looked after the country, skies and waterways, which I call my home now, a place where I know I belong. Just a bit of cultural safety for me. English is not my first language. And if I say something inappropriate right now, please blame the interpreter who's there. They're not doing their job properly. And probably because it's Ramadan and it's that time of the day. So please bear with me for that. I'm also grateful to Christine and Glenorchy City Council for inviting me to come up here and talk about an important topic that's really close to my heart as well. I'm not going to talk about anything new today. I am making an assumption that we are all well versed in these topics and in these subjects, but I'm here to talk about a perspective as a community leader, a perspective as an immigrant, somebody who is on their settlement journey, somebody who is there on their journey of belonging. And during this time, while I give my presentation, I want you all to consciously think about the fact that what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Or what would you have done if you were in the shoes of a new immigrant who was coming to this country? Now, when my family and I, when we were migrating to Australia, I Googled about Australia, and the first thing that popped up on Google was that Australia is one of the most successful multicultural countries in the world. It was very good for me. But what I heard from the communities was very different. I was told that Australians are very racist. Now, for somebody who is burning all the bridges, who is making such a leap of faith to come to a country, to find safety, to find belonging, this is the last thing that they want to hear. Because for my family, there was no looking back. So, does diversity actually means that we have a successful multicultural community or successful multicultural society? And this is what I want to talk about here today. I would like to stand because it's just uncomfortable for me sitting and talking because I have people sitting behind me. So, when we talk about journey to a successful multicultural Tasmania, what are we looking into? Okay. What are the challenges do we face? First of all, language barrier. I can speak English, but I cannot speak Australian English. There's a difference. Your slangs does not resonate with my English, so at times my English does not English at all. But think of people who are coming to Tasmania whose first language is not English at all. How would they become part of the society? So this is one challenge that we all face. Right? Migration experiences. People come to Australia, people come to Tasmania through different visa streams. But the most popular ones are the ones who comes as refugees or the one who comes as skilled migrants. Now, people who come as refugees, they do not have a choice to come to Australia. I came to Australia by choice. But refugees are not coming to Australia by choice. They do not even have time to prepare or get ready or to learn the language. Think of it in a way that I'll say, you all have 10 minutes to pack your lives in a suitcase, and you have to leave not only your house, not only your state, but your country. What would you pack? Think of it in a way. There are a lot of refugees who are living in Tasmania, who are living in Australia, who have come through the journey of a refugee. So how can we support them? What their experience would be? How can they be part of a multicultural society? Racism. Like I said, that when I was coming here, racism was last down somewhere in the agenda because I was given a promise that this is a safe place, this is a safe country, this is where I belong, this is where my home is. So if I'm not expecting a racist encounter, and if I suddenly come across a racist situation, imagine what my body would go through. Imagine what my mind would go through. We just experienced something outside, and I think most of us are still shaking. And we did not even encounter it ourselves. So imagine being in that position. And somebody who is coming from a war-torn country, running away from conflict, running for their lives, and then they have to face a situation like that. They would start doubting what just happened with them. Cultural insensitivities. Unfortunately, a lot of people still do not understand the meaning of multiculturalism or do not understand the concept why migrants are coming to your country. And because of this, they think different. They have different perceptions about migrants, and then this become a barrier for them. Access to services. Is it easy to navigate Centrelink? Is it easy to navigate legal systems, health systems here? So think of someone whose first language is not English. What if you have to migrate to a country where they do not speak English? Let's say Poland, if you have to go to Poland, if you have to go to China. And would that, although for English is your first language, you are all educated people, but would you be able to understand their systems easily? I was talking to a Nepalese community member, and he said that the place where I migrated from, we do not have traffic lights there. So when I drive on the road, it is very difficult for me to navigate traffic lights, very difficult for me to navigate road signs because they're all in English. Limited diversity. One of the reasons that stop people from living in Tasmania is that Tasmania is still the least diverse state of Australia. And because people do not live here, they are unable to form their communities here, they leave Tasmania. Education and training gaps. Now, when refugees come here, and Helen, please correct me if I'm wrong, when refugees come here, their children are sent straight away to schools. English is not their first language. How will these kids keep up or get used to the curriculum here? These are the challenges that communities face in making a successful multicultural society. Now, there are some indicators, and I'm not going to read all of them. You can have a read. That there are some indicators that actually identify what a successful migrant society looks like when there is social cohesion and integration in the communities, when there are economic inclusions, people get a fair and equitable chance to find work, find the right job for themselves, when their cultural recognition and celebrations are there. Now, I'm really grateful to Glenorchy City Council for championing diversity and cultural events. I have seen so many events these days that are just sponsored by, supported by Glenorchy City Council. So thank you for doing that. Education and awareness. Now, how can we come together and work on a curriculum and develop it in a way for someone who does not speak English? Unfortunately, when colonization happened, the systems were designed for people whose first language was English. But now Tasmania is going through, or Australia is going through another phase of transition and migration. So how can we be more inclusive and support communities like that? Equitable and culturally sensitive healthcare. People coming from different cultural backgrounds need different kind of healthcare. And then going back to my point that these people are not here by choice. And we want them to be part of the system as soon as possible. So in the beginning, in those their starting days, how can we support them? They need an in-language support so that the sooner they learn, the easier it will be for them to transition into the mainstream society. Political representation and participation. People who come from collectivist backgrounds, they tend to look up to people from their own community as role models. Right? It's a collectivist thing. It's a collectivist culture approach. Right? And that's why community leaders like myself are overburdened with work because they see us as their role models, and every single thing that happens, it has to come to us. Getting the right housing support, so having the right policies, understandable policies is important. Well-being of the community, intergenerational participation. So what can you do to involve young people? How can you get experience and expertise for older people and then bring the communities together? And most importantly, positive media representation. People follow people that look like them on media. I did a television campaign with Department of Health during COVID, and the ad was, I just had to say one line that I am getting vaccinated because I have to go back and see my family. And after that, a lot of my community members got vaccinated because they saw somebody who looked like them, who was saying, I'm alive, nothing is wrong with me, you need to go and get yourself vaccinated. So to be a successful multicultural society, what are the three things that I can recommend, which is legal foundation. So having the right legal systems is important. Right investments. So I've recently been appointed as a member of the Australian Multicultural Council, so I'm going to share some information from that as well. So the federal government is actually funding supporting the Human Rights Commission, and I think that's an amazing thing that they're doing. When talking about legal foundation, so Australia does not have a national Human Rights Act that they need to work on. Tasmania doesn't have either. and having the right leadership. Unfortunately, I have experienced that there are some leaders who are divisive, who talk about, oh, the migrants are this and the migrants are that. This is not right. People are here to seek safety. People are here to find their homes. This is where they belong. And if they see a leader who is a role model to them, if somebody's saying, oh, these people do not belong here, that will actually kill the spirit of multiculturalism. So some actions that I'm sure Glenorchy City Council is already taking, but I just want to reinforce that. Promote cultural awareness. So Migrant Resource Center Tasmania, or we do cultural awareness training. And I would highly encourage you to have those conversations with your team members or your colleagues or your community members to do attend that cultural awareness training. There is nothing wrong in that because when we have our cultural conversations, we share different experiences, we share different stories, we share different perspectives. And that's a good thing because that's an enriching experience. We learn from each other. Celebrate cultures. Glenorchy City Council is already doing that, so thank you once again for doing it. Multilingual resources. Like I've mentioned earlier, that somebody who is fleeing conflict will not have time to learn your language. They don't even know that they will end up in Tasmania, they'll end up in Australia. Right? So to transition them into mainstream, it is important to provide basic essential services in language so that they understand. Foster inclusion programs. So when I came here, I think Hobart City Council or some other organization used to run a welcome dinner project. And it was such a beautiful concept because a host, somebody who's been in Tasmania for a long time, would host dinner at their place. And all the new migrants would use to go there, take their like one dish and then go there and network. So again, it would actually help in people getting to know each other. Actually, I found my employer in one of the dinner projects. So it was, I'm a great advocate for that one. And again, celebrate achievements. So Glenorchy City Council is doing that. Again, keep on doing what you're doing. But I think highlighting stories of significant migrants who are actually adding value to the state, it helps because, again, people look at them as role models, and this is where they become an inspiration for them. Some of the facts, I'm pretty sure you all are well versed on how diverse Glenorchy is. Some of the top languages that are spoken in, top 10 languages that are spoken in Glenorchy today, and Nepalese being the top 1.5% of Tasmanian population speaks. No, that's Chinese, sorry, my bad. but 15% of Tasmania's population are migrants. And in, of course, in Glenorchy, 9.4% people speaks Nepali. And I think if I can recall correctly, since 2016 to 2021, the Nepalese population has increased 124%. Just reading the facts this morning. Again, some of the facts of what's happening in Glenorchy right now. So 21.6% of residents in Glenorchy are born overseas compared to the greater Hobart region, which is again, shows that how collectivist communities are coming together. When you are fleeing conflict, you want to live with someone who is from your country or who is from your community, because that builds that support system. So Glenorchy is very privileged that there are people coming here, and there will be more people coming here because this is where people are finding their belonging, and this is where people are finding their homes. One thing that stood out for me was that in Glenorchy LGA, 58 different languages are spoken. I'm not sure, but if you guys understand how powerful that is. The power of language is just amazing. So there was a report that was issued by SSI and Deloitte, and it was called the $1 Billion Benefit. I'm sure people have read that, but just for those who are not aware of this. So this report actually spoke about the underutilization of skilled workers, skilled migrants who come to Australia. And according to this report, if all skilled workers were working in their relevant skill jobs, Australia would benefit of $9 billion every year. And unfortunately, this is not happening. So imagine the loss that we're incurring every year. Moving on to my next and most important topic, which is of racism. Can I ask people here to just tell me what do they think of racism when this word comes up? If I need to ask.
When people are victimised by others who perceive their culture as being inferior. And I saw a horrible example on the weekend where 3 youths exited a toilet with a toilet roll and hurled it like a baseball at an Indian woman in a cubicle, like in a shop cubicle, like a butcher shop, and that was horrific, absolutely dreadful, and only on the basis of race.
Does anybody else want to comment on what racism is according to them?
It's an open workshop, so people behind can as well. I can imagine. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Mr. Steenenberg, feel free to contribute.
Discrimination. A lot of discrimination.
So when migrants, especially, when they face racism, the problem is that it does not sit with them only. It is a trauma that is then passed on to the broader community as well. Because, again, when they come here, they are coming with an expectation that this is a place of safety. This is a place where they're home. This is where they belong. And then when an incident like this happens, it just re-triggers the trauma. They're afraid to share that because they feel it's a reputational damage to them. So they live with it, they're sitting with it for weeks, months. And that impacts their mental health, fear, anxiety. If there any work opportunity, they're going to miss that as well, just because they faced that incident. And as community leaders, it takes a lot of, literally we have to sit and counsel them and tell them it's not your fault. I always tell my community members that racist people are scared of you. They're scaredy cats. They're afraid of you, that's why they do act. Because sometimes, again, if somebody does not speak English at all, how can I explain the term racism to them? So just to explain to them in very simple words that they are somebody who's afraid of you and they're attacking you and it's not your fault. It's just because you don't look like them, they're afraid of you. So they are the ones who have a problem, not you. There is distrust in institutions because obviously if there is a racial slur or something that police cannot act upon and people expect police to help them, if things don't work out, then obviously people do not trust the system at all. There is a loss of cultural identity. I was talking to an Indian community member. She wears a red tika here, and she said that it is a religious identity that I wear to work. And somebody said to me, is it your on and off button? So just because she was wearing something that some of people don't wear, does that give them a right to say something like that? And again, when people migrate to a new country, religion is the only thing that they hold on to because that's faith. That brings them together. That's where they can look for hope. Academic performances are impacted, and obviously that their health impacts and isolation as well. Now, when racism happens, people, like I said, there is a mistrust in the system. People are afraid to report. I did a consultation with almost 75 to 80 community members when I was writing resources for Migrant Resource Center's project. And the thing that came out from all that consultation was that people do not trust the system, people do not trust the police. Why? Because nothing happens. And that's why people do not report. These are some of the clips that actually we got off internet of the incidents that were reported. And by the way, half of them was supported by the Multicultural Council of Tasmania and half of them was supported by the Nepalese community. And because they were supporting, these people were able to come out and have that conversation. People are afraid to report because they think they're going to lose their visas. Again, the shame in the community, reputational damage are all factors. Again, go back and think of it. How would you feel if you're living in a country and they don't speak English and you face an incident like that? What would your expectation be? What kind of support would you look for? So when your people, when your communities face incidents like that, go back into that mindset and see what support can you provide them. When we talk about being anti-racist and not racist, sometimes when we talk about racism, people say, oh, I'm not racist. But does that make you anti-racist? We have to work towards being anti-racist. We need to take actions. And racism happens because of unconscious bias. And there's no harm in acknowledging that we have unconscious bias because we're humans. Only dead people don't have unconscious bias. So there's no harm in acknowledging. That makes us human. We should acknowledge that yes, we have an unconscious bias, and then we will mindfully address that. So what do we have to do to be anti-racist? Firstly, action over intent. So although I have an intention, all the intention to be anti-racist, but what am I doing for that? Accountability, calling out racism is important. Be an upstander. Support people who face incidents like that, like what Dr. Helen did right now. She was there with her. She called the manager to look after her. But yes, what support can you provide? And stand in solidarity with those people. Vote wisely. That's the one thing that's most important. You need to have leaders who would support you, who would stand for you. And take actions daily. Be a superhero. What you can do in your capacity as a human being, as a family member, as a friend, as a community, as a counselor, in a bigger picture, but what little action can you do every day to be that superhero who is anti-racist? Report it. The National Anti-Racism Framework is actually, these days, the Bible to be anti-racist. They have 63 recommendations, and the key priority areas which everybody is now expected to work on is legal protection and reform. So like I said, that have that legal framework for people who are migrants, or even First Nations actually. Call out for discriminations and racism in workplaces. So the report is available online, and you can also write to the Office of to Australian Human Rights Commission and ask for a physical copy if you want. But it's a very good document. Have a read. Now, we have a lot of communities here in Glenorchy, and what can we do to empower those communities? Because communities are our strength. And what I have seen, especially in the multicultural space, is that our community organizations are not empowered enough. They're not strengthened enough. And that's why it is always a challenge to work with those organizations. So 3 pillars that I could identify for empowering communities was to create opportunities for them. What can we do to support our communities? What can we do to support our community organizations? Fostering inclusion. Again, Glenorchy City Council is doing a great job in that. So providing opportunities to be inclusive and building their resilience, giving them the framework to be there for all time. Because unfortunately, in the multicultural sector, the problem is that the life of an organization is very small. Because mostly they do not have frameworks, they do not have any governance structures. And again, if we want to empower communities, we need to strengthen them. Okay. I will open the floor for questions now. Any questions?
I'd just like to commend you on an outstanding performance, and I think you've given everyone here and hopefully online a lot to think about. And we, as a council, are doing our best to stand up and spread the message. We do want to be an inclusive society. And as I say, witnessing bad things happening to other people is not the way we want our city to be viewed, so, or anyone in Tasmania for that matter. So, one last opportunity to say anything? No? Eddie's got something.
Oh, sorry.
Ms. Slade, can I defer to Eddie?
Yes, please.
Well, it's just simply a question. Your last slide was about empowering communities. What's these communities? What are these things you're empowering? Are they the Nepali community, the Indian community, the Chinese
That could
community?
be any community organization that are looking to find their place in Tasmania. The problem is, like I said, that a lot of community organizations are very temporary. They lack governance structure, and then it becomes, so once they fade away or once they are not there, and when a new organization pops up, then they have to reinvent the wheel and start the structuring, and that breaks the cycle of inclusion, that breaks the cycle of integration. So we need to have really robust, resilient community organizations then that can work together with the councils to have that journey of multicultural settlement.
Are you almost talking about institutions rather than communities, like bodies that have some sort of permanence to them? Institutions are things that are permanent in our world.
Definitely. So,
And we tend to rely on institutions for all sorts of things in our world. And then we try to be modern because they're permanent. So we have some sort of permanence rather than you're talking about these bodies that come and go. How do you make them? Are you trying to make them permanent, or are you're trying to empower the ones that pop up?
well, that depends, because let's say if there's an Indian organization, the Indian Cultural Society has been there for 50 years. So there is an organization that if somebody wants to work with the Indian community, they have their systems or they have their structures, they know the people, and they want to, sometimes we need to be guided by the communities on working with them in a cultural space or, reaching the right kind of people. So having, again, those structures is very important. Something that stays regardless of people. Organizations should not be depending upon people, especially community organizations. They should be process driven rather than people driven. People can go wrong.
Thank you. Alderman Slade?
Yes, all I just want to say, and that was an excellent presentation, but look, if you feel confident, interfere in whatever, look, I'll do it every day of the week. It was my background. And I saw an incident at one of the shops run by Japanese where some people, I knew there was going to be some strife. So I told my wife to park the car and I'll just go in. I went into the shop and guys were starting to wreck the shop and whatever. And I said to the young man running the shop, whatever, just stand by me and whatever, and just call the police. And the young fellas, I gave them some advice actually. And they left and whatever. But what happened from that incident, there was other people coming to the shop who saw me and asked me a couple of weeks later, why did I do that, right? And I told them why I did it. And the good thing about it was people from the actual community and also people from the Australian community. So what I'm just saying is if you have got the opportunity, I mean, some people can't do this, but my policing background, I could. And I wasn't going to put up with him being treated like that. And he thanks me for that and he's told his community. But probably what I'm just saying is that if we can all just do a little bit, we don't all have to be, heavy. I wasn't heavy that day, a little bit heavy perhaps. But it's just, look, see something like that, just help the person. And that will give them such much guidance and whatever. So probably what I'm just saying is that's what I like to see people do. The second thing I was going to ask you is that I've found, since I've been in local government for a long time, is that certain groups come over here to Australia are very hard to actually touch base with or to get in with and whatever. How do you get through that? Like the Indians and Nepali, look, they've been here for years and whatever, you know who they are, no problem. But there is certainly some groups that, when I see them, they'll put the head down or whatever because there's no interaction there, whatever. how do you get through to the newer, smaller groups? Because even I find it frustrating. How do you do that?
So it's important to understand the cultural background that they're coming from.
Right.
Like I said, mostly people who come from Eastern countries are coming from collectivist backgrounds. Yeah?
Yeah.
And again, the power difference is there. So if they see you in a position of power,
Right.
trust me, they'll be clinging onto you.
Okay.
Okay?
They weren't clinging, but I know, yeah.
So it's obviously you need to explain your boundaries to them,
Yes.
and sometimes you need to put people into their place.
Okay. That's right. I just wondered how you do it.
And it's okay to tell them that they need to back off because
Yes.
I'll give you an example. So there was a workplace where there was some group of Chinese, and I don't want to sound racist in that one, but there was a group of Chinese engineers who were skilled, who were quite capable of doing their stuff, but their bosses were complaining that they're not up to performance. Now, the problem was because they were coming from two different cultural backgrounds, the managers were expecting that they are capable enough to take the initiative. They're skilled migrants, they're educated, they know the work, they're skilled. But coming from a collectivist culture, their expectation was that they will be given orders. They will be given that instructions from the managers. And this is where people need to come to our cultural awareness training to understand that different cultural background. So when people, especially from the South Asian countries, when they come, when they see people as counselors or sitting especially in the political space, they think that, oh, this is, if we are working with them, or if we are taking pictures with them, that's it. Our communities will say, oh my God, we're just sitting somewhere in place of ours. It's about that affiliation
Sure.
with the leader.
Thanks very much.
And just another point, I think I was sitting with Alderman Slade at the Moona Arts Centre, and we Googled coloured people against white people, what was the percentage? When, you consider the superiority of some of our race, it's really interesting that 85% of the 7.8 billion people on this earth are from another country. So such as Africa, Asia, they're Indigenous, Latin American or mixed heritage backgrounds. So, there's a lot to be learnt, I think, when it comes to superiority.
But I think it's more about how you use your privilege, how you use your position, whether it's in your workplace or whether it's in your council. How do you positively influence people, and how do you show that, yes, I am an anti-racist person, or I am there to look after my communities, and that's where the change starts to happen. So it has to come from the top. Leaders need to walk the talk.
And to Eddie's point, I think the point there is if they have a basic constitution and they have a hierarchy of who's the spokesperson and things like that for the communities, it makes it a lot easier for councils to be able to negotiate things like festivals when you're giving away, money, so public money. So I think Eamon's point there is, to act as a collective and not in different little groups is much easier where possible.
And if the organizations are strengthened, you know where to go to, right? Instead of people coming up here and there. It becomes easier to work with.
I just got one. I totally understand why they do get frustrated with police. I've been there and I know what the frustration is. But then I try and explain that we haven't got any great human rights sort of legislation where the police officers can actually use that and whatever. The moment that starts to happen, like in, I think, New South Wales, I think WA might be doing it, that's going to make things much stronger, you know what I mean? So I can understand why they get downhearted and the fact that police not. The police have still got interest in it, but they just got no power. So I know it's hard. I'm just hoping people like yourself, going around Canberra, places like that will come together and that police will be able to charge people with these offences, which are just as serious as a traffic offence, probably more serious. So I just wanted to say that because that's what needs to turn.
Police needs to charge the right kind of people, not every person that comes.
No. Yes.
And also, it's good to know that the Tasmanian Police actually have, proactive approach to making their force more diverse.
but they have a long way to go. Yesterday, I was supporting a community member of a domestic violence, and when she called the police to come and attend to the case, actually police were quite aggressive towards her because she was the victim and the husband said something and they got aggressive towards her. So I still have to file that complaint, but I will, because if somebody, I mean, regardless of, they were men, there were two male sergeants who went to attend her. So again, that is a culturally inappropriate thing.
Yeah.
Right? So having that cultural awareness, especially for police, is very important.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Molly?
Thank you. Thanks so much through Mayor for coming along, Eamon. And yeah, you presented incredibly, considering English is your second language. I think you did a much better job than I could have anyway. And thank you as well for calling out racism. I know it's a really uncomfortable conversation, and I'm sure as we see around the table, like it's hard to acknowledge racism. We much prefer words like inclusivity and multiculturalism and those kind of nicer words, but I think it is really important that we say it and name it, and not just in the really extreme situations, but the whole spectrum that you see of many different levels of, you know, from the smallest little microaggression or just from not making eye contact because of fear or whatever. Yeah, and also picking up Alderman Slade's point about it doesn't need to be really aggressive, like you can intervene, and maybe we'll have some tools later on about how to do this in a supportive way, like just sitting next to or standing with the person who's being targeted before it escalates. And so I think that cultural awareness training could really benefit us all, and I hope we're able to do that. It's sort of like that show You Can't Ask That, I think, like giving that safe space where you can say, oh, so what is the hijab about and what is the dot in the forehead, and ask all those questions. In a safe space. So I'd love us to have that.
Yeah, good.
Yes, so thank you very much, most informative. And now we're going to call on our next two speakers, but before I do, it is remiss of me that I didn't introduce my colleagues. So we have Alderman Tim Marks, Alderman Peter Riddler, Alderman Justin Stringer, Councillor Molly Kendall, we have the Deputy Mayor Russell Yaxley, myself, Mayor Sue Hickey, our CEO Tony McMullen, and we have Alderman Stephen King and Alderman Stuart Slade. I know Alderman Josh Cockshott is an apology, but I'm not certain where Alderman Shane is. Alderman. Okay, so thank you again. Yes, please. To join us. Now, my notes say that I have Christine Lane and Ellie Rigney, so I will ask Christine to introduce your guest.
Apologies, Mayor. I've swapped the very capable Ellie Rigney, my partner in crime, out for one of our ambassadors for the We Stand Together Against Racism campaign that we're a part of, and I'm about to walk you through. So this is Sudina Gamere. I hope I got that right. Welcome. And Sudina has been very kind to participate, and I'll talk to you about this campaign. I've asked Sudina to join me because you might have some questions about the lived experience of the campaign.
Thank you.
So as Eamon has just highlighted, 21.6% of our community in Glenorchy, that's 1 in 5 people, were not born here, they were born overseas. So when we were approached about collaborating on the We Stand Together Against Racism campaign, we didn't hesitate. It's really important, we feel, for our community and for the Greater Southern Regional, Greater Hobart councils to be part of this. I honestly believe that the behaviour and a point that you made, Alderman Slade, the behaviour that you walk past or that you ignore is the behaviour that you condone or accept. So this is really important. And this campaign is not going to fix the issue or the problem, whatever you like to call it, but what it's going to do is just further highlight the importance of standing together against racism. And Councillor Kendall mentioned that we don't like to say that word, but it is, it's racism. And we want to be about anti-racism, not anything else. So thanks. Oh,
You've got the clicker?
oh, I've got the clicker. Just a sec, I'll try and work it. Excuse me.
Got it around the wrong way.
I got around the wrong way, so thank you, Alderman Marks. So just a brief overview of the campaign. So it's a bold and unified statement against racism. It's not mincing words. It aligns with the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination and aims to foster unity and empowerment across Greater Hobart. And hopefully that will then spread throughout Tasmania and beyond. It features real stories and images from local community members, so real lived experience about racism. There are 6 councils who are included, and that's us, Glenorchy, Brighton, Hobart, Clarence, Sorell and Kingborough. So it's 240,000 people in Tasmania, so that's almost half our population. And if we can't get some sort of combined effort to, make this happen, I'm not sure what else we can do. It's been coordinated by Brighton Council, and they're very ably getting us all organised. So the key message is that we stand together against racism. It's a strong yet simple message, and it aims to engage everyone in our community to build an inclusive and welcoming community. It conveys strength, unity and taking an active stance, and encourages everyday actions to foster inclusivity. So one of those pillars that Eamon spoke about is taking action, and this gives us that pillar, or gives us that foundation. I think the strength of this campaign is the community representation. So it's been built with input from the Migrant Resource Centre of Tasmania and local representatives. The campaign is using local faces and quotes from people who live in our community. So each of the 6 local government areas were asked to nominate 2 representatives, and we were really lucky that Sudina and another representative, Grace Chair, who couldn't be with us today, but a local, and I don't know much about her work, but she's a very well-known R&B artist. My children thought it was ridiculous. I didn't know who she was. And Sudina is the MCOT Speak My Language officer. So the key focus is to empower allyship by featuring community members from diverse backgrounds, ensuring the campaign highlights solidarity and a collective strength. So what does the campaign look like? The materials include a simple 1-page landing page on a website at standtogetherhobart.com, a toolkit for each of the participating councils that include logo files, style guides, A3 poster design, press adverts, social media tiles. The landing page will include a concise list of actions. Again, there's that word actions that community members can take. It'll also include links to each council webpage that details their own initiatives and events relating to anti-racism. And we have already have quite a bit on our own webpage around anti-racism, because we do a lot of work in this space. But it also includes links to MRC Tasmania and Human Rights Commission campaign sites. And there might be other additional items as required. So they're building this campaign as it goes. This is just a start of what we all hope is a continuing and a bigger story. So the next few slides I've got to show you are just examples of what the creative people have done to really promote this stuff. So you'll start to see these sorts of collateral in and around the communities. This is what you might see if you look at the landing page on your phone. Maybe not immediately, I don't think, but eventually we might start seeing this sort of promotional materials on things like bus stops and other prominent public spaces. And then posters. So there'll be posters with the QR code that'll take you to the landing page and the website. So the launch event is next Friday, the 21st of March. It's going to be held alongside the Walk Against Racism from the Hobart Waterfront to Parliament Lawns. And I'm going to defer to, it's about midday?
So it begins at 11 a.m. and that's the walk with Peter Gutman.
Yes. So, yeah, Peter Gutman, who's a great anti-racism campaigner.
And that's with media, CEOs and mayors. And at 11:45 will be the launch. And 12 to 2:30 is two separate panels, which is put on by the City of Hobart. So Hobart Conversation Panel 1 is anti-discrimination in school and workplace environments. And the second one is human rights, anti-discrimination and anti-racism.
So there again is an action that we can take as a council to participate in that walk, and everybody is encouraged to attend. I'll certainly be there, and I know our CEO and Mayor are attending. And the other action you can take is to help promote the campaign. If we go to those three pillars that Eamon talked about, accountability could look like embracing the theme of the campaign and openly saying that we stand together against racism, and as Alderman Slade said, taking action.
Yes, Alderman Slade.
Can I ask a question? Can you go back a slide, please? I'm a hard person on this subject, and people know that I just don't like racism. I just find these photographs and whatever very nice, but they do take a lot to read to work out exactly what you're talking about. What's wrong with the International Day for Elimination of Racial Discrimination emblem, which is no racism and whatever, very clear, so we know what it's all about? Is there any reason why that can't be included?
I'm not sure, I don't have an answer to that.
Okay, that's all it's like. Don't get me wrong, look,
Oh.
I know a lot of work's gone into this and I support the work's gone into it. I've just got that hard approach where I just want people to come together and say no, you know me.
CEO, I'd like to
Through you, Mayor, my understanding is that there was, the council's got together and co-funded a marketing firm. They also sought extensive advice from the Migrant Resource Centre in design of the campaign. And the feeling was that it was better to tackle this issue with a positive spirit, to try and enlist support for this position rather than a kind of a more, as you say, a more robust kind of position that might alienate people when we're actually trying to win over hearts and minds rather than further galvanise people into positions that we consider unsustainable.
Thanks, CEO, for explaining it.
Thank you. We do have Eamon in there.
Can I add one more thing? We do not want to scare people away because
I understand.
this campaign will also be looked by new people who are coming here.
Yes.
They don't want to be seen as, okay, so we're going into a racist space. So that was one.
Okay, it's okay. I'm sorry that doesn't change my view. That I know my view is that the fact is I'm a no racism person. So that's okay. I just felt that people may take a long time to digest these. That's all.
Yeah, I actually stand with you. I think they're very busy and difficult to read, but nevertheless.
And I understand where you come from.
Yeah, I understand we want to positively change the dialogue. So I think that's important.
This campaign, this static material will also be accompanied by these stories, these lived experience stories that Sudina, Grace and other community members Sudina, I understand you've been interviewed. You've been asked a series of questions and interviewed and recorded, and so there'll be the spoken word and the emotion and the passion behind the anti-racism message. So it's not just it's sort of a package of materials, not just static posters or websites.
No, that's fine.
So we've got action, accountability and solidarity, and that looks like the 6 councils that have got together across the 3 the Southern Tasmania. So thank you, Eamon, for presenting those 3 pillars, because I think that is a really nice framework for explaining this campaign. So as I said before, I don't think this is just my view, I don't think this campaign is going to fix the issue, but what it will do is shine a very strong light on it and hopefully start to shift those unconscious biases that we all hold, and I know I hold them as well. I fight to let them go. So I'm really excited about the campaign. I'm really excited that Glenorchy is taking a lead in it.
Yes, I fully support you, thank you, and it's about having positive conversations. Thank you. Yes, Anna?
Building on to what the other principal said, that he as a leader has supported community. So this campaign, this whole project actually came off from the back of the work that Mr. Leader did. And when he asked the right in the council, they had the discussions, and then when the work was over, this whole came together.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I request you, invite you all to be the panel, so now it's going to be just one panel. And I'll be the MC, please make sure you're there.
Good plug. Thank you.
Can I share my experience?
Yes,
that
you
I
could,
took
Sudan.
part this campaign, because I normally prefer to work at the back of the community, or like I'm doing like volunteer in different community organization and working in the AMCOD. So thinking that like if I come front, then I could encourage others to speak up, that we stand together against the racism. That's why like it's my honor and privilege to be a part of this campaign. That's the main reason like I could encourage others to speak out as well.
Yes, vital, and we really appreciate, particularly someone who's had lived experience. I
Yes.
think it's very good. May I ask for your country of origin? What's your surname?
Nepal.
Nepal. Ah, right. Excellent. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing a lot more of you in public space.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christine. So I'm going to give you the update now for what has been happening around council for the week. And the first one is black spot funding. I'm pleased to advise that the Australian Government has provided funding for 3 black spot projects in Glenorchy, including 4th Avenue between Springfield and 2nd Avenue, West Moona, $120,000 for high friction surface treatment. Brent Street, east of Chapel Street roundabout Glenorchy, $15,000 for a safety barrier. Sunmont Street, southern end Derwent Park, $50,000 for anti-skid surfacing. And total funding from the Australian Government for this project is $185,000, with council contributing $15,000. The next subject is the pool, the repair and reopen of the existing pool. Following requests from several tenderers, the tender period for the repair of the pool has been extended by 2 weeks and will now close on Thursday, 20th of March. It is felt that this will result in a better value for money, as tenderers have more time to adequately cost what is indeed a very complex project. Council officers are working towards presenting the successful tender to the 28th of April council meeting for endorsement. We're still hoping everything stays on timelines. The redevelopment of the pool, or actually really advocating for a new pool. I am continuing to lobby state and federal politicians and candidates in the upcoming federal election for funding for this pool. I am taking every opportunity to get the word out through the media, most recently on ABC Radio's Outside broadcast at Northgate, where I was joined by Kim Churchill of the Friends of Glenorchy Pool Inc. to lobby for pool funding in the upcoming election. I've also been meeting with community groups and will meet with local school principals to encourage them to help lobby for this. Tenders for the repair and reopening have been extended. We've already got that bit. And yes, I'm sorry, that's all old stuff. I think the most important thing to think of is there's been absolutely no new money into aquatic facilities in southern Tasmania since 1996, the Doon Kennedy Aquatic Centre of that significant sum, which from memory was 16 million, 17 million, something of that sum. And when you think that's 29 years ago, it actually makes our ask very reasonable. And as we know that there was a boom of the 1950s and 60s aquatic centres, and they're all old. They're all going to be retired shortly, and they'll suffer the same fate as we did. And you can only bandage and patch a 60-year-old pool for so long, and we ran out of options with our one. So now it's about lobbying for a really significant aquatic centre for the whole region. So that's why anybody with a voice or anyone with a computer, please lobby your candidate and ask them to support this. Community and volunteer awards. A reminder that our community and volunteer awards are now open. Please help promote nominations for these awards by sharing our Facebook posts and encouraging community members to nominate people for one or more of the award categories. Tolosa Reserve. Now on the screen you will see, last week I joined Taswater to announce the completion of murals on the 2 water reservoirs at Tolosa Park. And we're really privileged to be joined by the very talented and very young artist Harrison Bowes. I encourage you to go and have a look. They are spectacular, and you just cannot gauge, just looking at those pictures, the scale of this artwork. It is truly phenomenal and captures the Styx Valley and water coming down to basically out of the mountain and down to Tolosa. I think you'll agree that this artwork turns an eyesore of very utilitarian infrastructure into 2 massive pieces of artwork. And it's a gift to our community from Taswater, and it's a lovely sort of entrance welcoming as you approach our fantastic Tolosa Park. So do please go up and have a look at it. You just won't believe the scale, and he painted it in 48 hours.
Amazing.
It's 48 hours, going up and down in a scissor lift, judging scale and all the rest of it. It's so unbelievable, yes, the way he's done it. Golden Years Club. Expressions of interest for a new head tenant for the Golden Years Club building on the main road will be advertised tomorrow on the 12th of March until the 2nd of April. Council is seeking an organisation that can provide important services and programs to benefit the Glenorchy community to take over the lease. All organisations who have expressed interest in the building to date have been contacted, but if you know of an organisation that is interested, please let them know that EOIs are open with details available on the Council's website. And can I stress to the people on Facebook who are always negative about everything, that it is no decision has been made. So regardless of the rumours you'll be seeing, they're not true.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
Can I just correct the painting of the reservoirs actually took 48 days.
Oh, 48 days, I think.
That might be a typo.
Yes.
That might be a typo in the notes.
Yes, and I appreciate that, yes. But even 48 days, it's just incredible, the amount of detail. So please go up there and have a look. Yes, and my apologies, I was a bit enthusiastic there. Now, we have a fun thing, and that is the naming of our new street sweeper. Glenorchy finally has a big city street sweeper. I'm so excited about that. So we've been inviting community to tell us what they would like the street sweeper to be called. Then we will choose the top 3 names for the community to vote on the winner. The street sweeper will then be branded with graphics and its new name. So we're asking people to help us by promoting this campaign amongst your networks. And finally, upcoming pop-ups and yarns. Our first community pop-up will be held on the front lawns next Thursday in conjunction with the Belonging Day activity. So if you've got a burning question of council, or you want to give us a good idea, or you just simply like to meet some of your elected representatives, please come along. And a reminder, this is to our elected officials, that if you are available for the pop-up between 11 and 1, please let Christine know. Our first community yarn for the year will be held on Tuesday the 25th of March, so that's coming up very soon. The topic for this yarn will be about the pool, and we will hold it at the pool. The event has been added to the elected member calendar today. Now, before we close today's open council workshop, can I just go around the table and see if anyone has anything they would like to share with us? So Alderman Marks, Alderman Riddler, no. Alderman Stringer, Councillor Kendall, no. Deputy? No, I've done enough talking. CEO? Thank you. Alderman King.
I understand there's a few names already come out about the street sweeper, which are very, very clever names. Are you aware of them?
Not me personally. I don't know whether Christine can share some.
Do you know something, Alderman King, that we don't know?
Can't remember.
Oh. Well, we're looking at,
That sweet face.
yes. There it is. There it is in all its glory, and I've got to get a ticket to drive it apparently, but it will be brightened up with, so that we can leave a constant message as that little thing works all the time around the city about our efforts now to really make a difference in the hygiene and cleanliness of the city. So I'm really excited about this project. Alderman Slade.
No, but notice that it does look like a character in cartoons, which I'd say one that a young person pick it up very quickly and come through that name.
Yeah, and it'd be lovely to get something that's chosen by the community. So on that note, I'm going to bid everyone farewell. Thank you for participating, those of you who've come along, and thank you to everyone online, and I hope you have a good night.